Hello, welcome back to the channel. My name is Lisa Elvin Stoltare, and I'm a genealogist and a passionate traveler. For the last few years, I have been featuring each fille du roi, or king's daughter, and getting to know their stories a little bit better. There are over 700 of them, and I am on episode 206. We have come such a long way together, and we have a long way to go. But before we begin, let me show you ways you can support the channel. The first three keep you in the know: subscribe, like, and notify. The next three are ways to help the channel grow. We have Coffee, which is a separate platform where you can give a one-time donation. And then we have Patreon, which is a monthly subscription. We also have Super Thanks, which is right here on the YouTube channel, which is given to me based on the fact that I have over 1,000 subscribers. So thank you to all of you. And also don't forget on my Have Roots Will Travel website, I have a direct PayPal button that you can use as well if you prefer PayPal. So with that being said, let's get started and get to know our fille du roi of this episode. Well, Marie started off as a viewer request, but as I looked through my files, my best friend, that was one of hers. And we also have the boy next door. We have my friend's husband. And we also have one of my genealogy colleagues who helped me out with a library project, so she knows who she is. So Marie Montminy is our fille du roi. Let's get to know Marie a little bit better. I also want to give a shout out to my dear friend, who's also, this is her great grandmother, who is now helping me with some of the graphics for the video, and she's got her own little company, Julie Freedom Designs, and I've posted the information for you in case you have any projects that you would need some graphic work done. And so I'm looking forward to working with her and bringing these videos even more to life. So thank you, Julie, for helping us out. So with that being said, let's get to know Marie. So Marie was born in 1646 in Rouen, Normandy. Her parents were Michel Montminy and Isabelle de la Rivière. And you can see, I've circled the Normandy region, and she is from the Seine-Maritime Département, and we can see Rouen is circled even there. You can see the beautiful picture in the middle left of the downtown core, or downtown, the real main part, the historic part of Rouen. On the bottom left, we have where it is truly along the river. And then the church Saint-Sauveur that she would have been baptized in dated from the 1060, and by the 18th century it was demolished around the time of the French Revolution. And you know, Rouen has such an amazing history. It's the capital of the region of Normandy, of course, and it was at one time the largest city in medieval Europe. It played prominent roles in both English and French history, and we all know that Joan of Arc was tried and burned alive in this spot. It's a city of cultural and educational significance, and it was from this area that the Statue of Liberty sailed in June of 1885. So it's got all kinds of interesting things. It's probably number one on my list to go when I go to France, and then followed by La Rochelle. Those are the two places I most want to go. Upon her father's death, she left for New France. She carried with her a dowry worth about 200 pounds. She sailed on the Jean-Baptiste de Dieppe, and she arrived in Quebec on June 30th, 1664. Her cousin Charles Montminy and his two daughters would later join her in New France. So that's interesting in case you descend, this would become your aunt if you descend from Charles. So let's find out what happens to her. So here's where the story gets a little interesting. It's not the typical welcome to New France. In June of 1664, she arrives in New France. Somewhere, she becomes pregnant in March of 1665. She did not get married right away. Possibly, I have no idea why. Becomes pregnant with a natural child of Gilles Morin. I see I've made a mistake in the spelling. October 1665, she contracts a marriage with a man named Thomas Grandi, and the same month the contract is canceled. He possibly found out she was pregnant. By December of 1665, she gives birth to Julienne. So now she's in a new country. She's got a baby, an illegitimate child who is going to marry her. She finds a groom. His name is Noël Rose. He's born in 1642 in Paris, in Saint-Étienne-du-Mont parish. His parents were Nicolas Rose and Jeanne Tardif. Saint-Étienne-du-Mont is a church in Paris. It's found in the 5th arrondissement. And it contains the shrine of Saint Geneviève, the patron saint of Paris. The church also contains the tombs of very, very important people in French history. It was the groundbreaking for this church occurred in 1494 and was completed in 1624. So can you imagine? Noël is born, and that's a brand new church. You know, the 5th arrondissement of Paris is one of the 20 that is found. That is how Paris is laid out. You can see in the third to your left or second to your right illustration of the map where the 5th is. It's also known as Panthéon, and it's situated on the rive gauche of the River Seine. It's one of the capital's central arrondissements. It's notable for being the location of the Quartier Latin, which is a district dominated by universities, colleges, and prestigious high schools. Notably, the Sorbonne is located here. It's home to the National Museum of National Museum of Natural History, and it dates to one of the oldest. It is one of the oldest districts in the city, dating back to ancient times, and we have evidence of Roman amphitheaters here as well as Roman baths. And so this is definitely a place where history and the new kind of meet. You can see by the bottom, the 5th is one of the most exciting places that I've read about. So when I get to Paris, this is where I'm going to go for sure. I want to check that out because it's to be very, very, very culturally to the forefront and also possesses such incredible history. So this is where Noël came from. I don't know when Noël arrived in New France, but we know that November 7, 1666, they were married in Quebec City. So they would settle on Ile d'Orléans. We can find them in the 1666 census. Notably, Julienne is not there. And so it's just Noël and Marie. In the 1667 census, Noël is there, Marie, his wife, and Marie, their daughter, 8 months. So it is clear that Julienne would have either been adopted or had passed away. And they possessed 3 arpents, about an acre and a half of land on the island. Ile d'Orléans is located in the St. Lawrence River, which is found east of downtown Quebec City. It's about 3 miles. The island was one of the first parts of the province to be colonized by the French, and a large percentage of French Canadians can trace their ancestry to the early residents of this island. The island has been described as a microcosm of traditional Quebec and as the birthplace of Francophones in North America. It was originally named all kinds of names: Grande Ile, Sainte Marie, Saint Laurent, but it was later changed to Ile d'Orléans in honor of the second son of King Francis I. He was Henry II, who happened to be the Duke of Orléans, and this is how it was, done. Now, I just want you to point out the 6 different parts of the island. I was just there this summer, and it really is very distinct. I mean, they kind of run into each other, but you can really clearly see with each church just amazing island. So we have Saint Pétronille, Saint Pierre, Saint Famille, Saint François, Saint Jean, Saint Laurent. And these are separate sections. And so you need to know where your family was in order to visit and really kind of get that feel for it. Rare times where they just decide, they're going to move back to Quebec City. So they obviously didn't like the island. So Noël moves in 1681 back to Quebec City. We've got Noël, Marie, and their children. We've got Marie now, she's 15, Pierre, Nicolas, Marie-Françoise, and Charles, and they have 2 horses. Let's talk a little bit about Quebec City. It is the capital city of the province of Quebec. 500,000 people live directly in Quebec City. It was originally named by the Algonquins, who named the area Quebec, K-E-B-E-C, which in their native language meant where the river narrows. Quebec City lies where the St. Lawrence River narrows. Samuel Champlain founded a French settlement here in 1608 and called it Ville de Québec, or Quebec City. The city walls which surround it still date back to this time period, making Quebec City the only city with remaining city walls north of Mexico. There is so much to see in Quebec City. But I just wanted to point out one of the houses here, La Maison Jacquette, is the oldest surviving private residence in Quebec. It dates from 1675 and is host to the restaurant Aux Anciens Canadiens. And then we have the shopping district, which is the Petit Champlain. It's claimed to be the oldest shopping district in North America. And then we have this old style map of Quebec on your right, and then just an illustration of what it looked like back when they would have lived there. Very small, very compact, but it was still a tremendous city of great trade and commerce. And it was the only game in town for a long, long time. And then Trois-Rivières, gave it a run for its own. And finally, Montreal ended up doing, growing up and becoming even stronger than Quebec City. But this Quebec City, the genesis of what French Canada is, can be found in that city. To have 9 children. Marie would marry Jean Turcotte and have 6 children, 5 of whom would make it. Pierre would die before the 1681 census. Joseph would die before reaching 1 year. Pierre would survive to adulthood, but died of a lung ailment at the age of 30. Nicolas would marry Marie-Joseph Prudhomme and have 1 child who made it to adulthood. Marie-Françoise would marry Jacques Lepage and have 8 children. Only 2 would survive before her own early death. Interestingly, Jacques was from the Saint-Jean parish in Rouet that Marie was from. Charles would marry Marie Patenot and have 17 children, 12 of whom would make it. Charles François would marry Marie-Jeanne Duboc and have 1 child who did not make it. Marie-Jeanne Françoise would marry René-Louis Jobin and have 11 children, 4 of whom would make it. Between 1685 and 1687, Noel would pass away. He was about 44 years of age. So, they would have been married, let's say, 21 years, which is a remarkable feat, but still a very sudden early death. One man dies and another arrives. That's how it often worked in Quebec. The second groom was François Dumas. We do not know the year he was born, but we know that he was also born in Paris, in the parish of Saint-Sauveur. His parents were Charles Dumas and Anne Lemaire. The church where he was born no longer exists, but could date its existence back to 1216. It was rebuilt in the 16th century and demolished in 1787 with the hope of rebuilding it, but a little thing like the French Revolution sort of interfered in this plan. L'église Saint-Sauveur was found on Saint-Sauveur Street and the corner of Saint-Denis. There exists a plaque commemorating this historic church, and on your bottom left is that plaque, and the top right is an illustration of what the church looked like. He was born in the 12e district, which is also known as La Bourse. This arrondissement is located on the right bank of the River Seine. It focuses on business and banking. There are several banking headquarters that are found here, as well as the former Paris Bourse Stock Exchange, which is why the nickname. The Paris Opera is found here, the Textile District, and of all things, home of Grand Rex, the largest movie theater in Paris. So that's kind of neat. Mary, and in Quebec City on November 25th, 1687. So she was able to at least have someone to help her with her children. Upon her marriage to Francois, Marie went to the Conseil de Sauveur and asked and pleaded her case that she needed to sell her half share in the house that she and her late husband had in order to maintain her life and that of her two youngest children, who were 3 and 4 years respectively. She and her new husband were intent on returning to France and would use this income to facilitate returning to their families in France, or so she said. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, she gave birth to another. She did sell the house and get the proceeds, but she gave birth to another child, Marguerite, who was born in 1690. So we know that we are pretty certain that she did not return to Quebec, to France, but we do not have a death record for her, so she could have theoretically returned to France. We know that she died somewhere between 1690 and 1702. The 1702 date is the last time that we see her in any contracts. So Noël Rose de la Rose can be found in the 26th volume of our French Canadian Ancestors. Please have a look at it. It's a tremendous little piece, and you can get it for free at our Free French Canadian Ancestors Facebook page. And here are some of the great resources I use. One of them that I really like is the Filles du Roi Descendants Facebook page, because it's really nice to be able to connect with other people. They ask questions, they comment on certain things, and it's always interesting to see what people are doing in terms of research. So have a look at that if you are a Facebook user. So ends our episode 206, Marie Montminy. What an interesting life she led. I don't think I told you how many descendants. She had 90 descendants by 1729, which isn't too bad, considering that several of her children did not produce very many offspring. She came to this country, somehow got herself into some situation, got remarried, lost that husband, remarried, tried to sell her house, figured out a way to make money. I don't have any information on that last child. So if anybody has any information about the second child or the child she had with her second husband, please let me know. But certainly, Marie, we thank you for being there and for persevering. Those of you and all of those people who are descendants of this brave lady can attest to the fact that she kept on keeping on. So thank you to Marie. We bless your memory, and we are grateful that you came to our shores. And I'm also thankful for my patrons and supporters. Thank you for all you do. Appreciate your belief and your enthusiasm for what I do. We really, really appreciate it. So with that being said, I'll see you on episode 207. Until then, au revoir.